Hello book lovers, welcome to episode 14. Today we are going to talk about Ann Patchett's book The Dutch House from 2019. Now friends, once I was browsing through Amazon and I stumbled upon this beautiful cover which is basically the painting of a young girl. She is in a red coat and has dark thick black hair. I was so enchanted, I immediately picked this book. So this is one book that I judged by its cover and I was not disappointed. To talk about the plot, this is the story. This is a family saga, the story of a brother and sister who are very comfortably placed. They live in an opulent house, and this house is equipped with servants. And this house they get when their father makes it big in real estate business. And it's not a house that he builds, but it is a house he acquires. The house originally belonged to a Dutch couple, the Van Hoewijks, who went bankrupt, and the house was put on sale. So now this brother and sister duo, they are very comfortable in this house, but the tables are turned when their mother leaves them to do social work in India, and she's replaced by a very vicious stepmother named Andrea, who's so insecure that she drives them out of the house. So now this book is about their lives as they reflect about their losses, the loss of their parents and their house. And the two, they share a very beautiful bond, one that stays with them for life. Now to talk about the characters, the key characters are Danny and Maeve. Danny is the younger brother of Maeve and also the narrator. Danny is very comfortable in the care of Maeve and he's very attached to her. He does not remember anything of his mother because she left when he was just 3 years old. He has Maeve by her side and he's satisfied. He does not miss his mother. But he learns about his mother through Maeve's anecdotes and the stories that their maids relate to him. And although he does not miss her, he does find her to be very callous and somebody that he decides he's going to keep his distance from. Danny is a precocious fellow. He studies to be a doctor. He becomes one, and then eventually he gives up medicine to pursue his passion, that is real estate, one that is kindled by his father. And he gets rich eventually. To talk about Maeve, Maeve is Danny's senior by 7 years. As Danny says in the book, she is somebody who is very beautiful, intelligent and compassionate. Now the two major wounds that she suffered in her life are the removal from her house and the loss of her parents. But she deals with this loss very gracefully. She bears her burden and she sticks by Danny's side. She raises him almost like a mother. And she makes n number of sacrifices to raise him. She sacrifices her time, her money and her own career for his sake to see him win. She's also a very vulnerable person. She perpetually longs for her lost mother and she forgives her. When her mother leaves them in their childhood, she gets diabetes and she gets really sick. She's not able to cope with it. And she's somebody who does not take care of her own health, but she's very caring towards others. She has no resentment for her stepsisters. On the contrary, she's very warm and open to them. But it is only one person that has her embittered, and that is her stepmother, Andrea. She simply cannot forgive her for the wrongs that she's done to her family. Then there is Cyril Conroy, Danny and Maeve's father. Now this guy is a real estate giant, a self-made fellow. He is very kind to his children, giving him all the facilities, but in a way, he's also very cold and distant. He does not communicate with them. Their mother leaves them, but he never feels the need to communicate with them, to tell them the reasons why she left. He leaves them in the dark. Although he's bought the house for his wife, but he never communicates with her either. He does not understand her objection to the house and her distaste for it. Also, he's shown to be a really weak character simply because he falls prey to the manipulations by this second wife of his who dupes him, and eventually they get married and their marriage is so disastrous it proves to be a ruin for everybody. So the next character is Elna Conroy, Danny and Maeve's mother. Now Elna and Cyril, the parents, they were eventually poor people, and now Elna, since they get rich, she's not able to come to terms with their sudden riches. She hates the house, she hates its aesthetic, and she finds it really immoral of them to acquire somebody else's property. She believes everything in their house originally belongs to Van Hoovex and not them. And she has a severe distaste for this house, and it is this torture and the betrayal or the lack of understanding by her husband that drives her out of the house, and eventually she becomes a missionary. She becomes a beggar. She begs for poor people and does everything in her power to serve the poorest of the poor. But this is one view. I believe that the reader, if they read between the lines, they'll also come to know that there is a very narcissistic side to this lady behind the soft veil of her charity. There is certainly a woman who is very selfish in a way. She does not give in to the needs of her own children. She abandons them. She never finds it necessary to talk to them or to explain to them the reasons why she left, or she never appears in their life again. Towards the end, she does reappear, but she never feels the need to apologize for the mental instability she caused them. Lastly, there is this vicious stepmother, Andrea, who is so insecure that she drives the rightful owners of the house out of the house to dwell in poverty and financial ruin. My only objection with this character is that she has no voice of her own. She is depicted as this perfect warmth, which is something difficult for me to swallow. All the other characters are so wonderfully developed, even the stepsisters. Even they have a humane side to them, but not this one. I believe this is done because it is shown as Danny's portrayal of Andrea, something which in turn Maeve tells Danny. This is Maeve's portrayal of Andrea that is being shown to us through Danny's voice. And maybe the writer, she wants to make a point that sometimes we are so embittered about some person that we fail to see anything positive about them. Now to talk about the themes that the book caters to. Friends, New York Times, it says that this book is a modern day fairy tale, and it has its own happy endings and evil and goodness. But I do not deny the fact that to me also there are elements of a fairy tale being present in this book. But there is a lot more to the writing style with its lucidity and simplicity. I believe that the writer is in a way trying to expose the psyches of this wounded duo of brother and sister, and this book is primarily about loss and the trauma that is associated with loss. And people may suffer the same loss, but they may have different perceptions of the loss that they suffer. Like in Maeve and Danny's case, both lose their house and their family, but their perceptions of the same are different. For Maeve, losing her mother is losing her life. She cannot cope up with it, and this affects her relationships. This makes her really vulnerable. So vulnerable that she accepts her mother when she reappears in her life without an apology, and she lets her control her again. Even Danny, he does not confront her mother at all, and for her, he does not need his mother. He does not confront her, not because he wants her in his life, but simply because he does not want her in his life. He also fails to question his own father for the blunders he makes, and all he ends up doing is glorifying his father after he dies and lamenting at the loss of legacy that he left him. And then there is the insurmountable loss of this house that they dwelled in. Now both Maeve and Danny, they study and they build new lives for themselves. They get into jobs, but somehow they are not able to forget this imperfectly perfect house of theirs. They cling to its memory. They are so attached to the house that they keep discussing it, keep relating the episodes. They drive to the house and spend hours talking about it and discussing the events that happened therein. And they remain parked there for hours, trying to, obsessed with the idea of viewing the house in different lights and different seasons. They perpetually drown in nostalgia, and this is something that affects the relationships, and this is something that has them stuck somewhere mentally. There's almost a sadistic pleasure they enjoy in remembering the house, and they feel no guilt in being so embittered about what happened in their life. Another theme that the book caters to is the idea that wealth and happiness is not related. Money is certainly something which is overrated. Houses and portraits may be perfect, but life as such cannot be perfect. It is full of pain, and money is certainly not something which makes life perfect. Now Danny and Maeve, when they stay in the house, they are comfortable, but they're always very depressed, given their comforts. Their father, who builds this legacy, even he is not able to enjoy the house. The mother is perpetually, upset about living in this kind of an opulent house. Even Andrea, who's insecure and who lusts after the house, is eventually driven insane. The stepsisters, they don't want to live in the house. So through this, the writer is somewhere hinting at the fact that money is overrated and wealth does not bring a person eternal happiness. Finally, to talk about the relevance of the book, I believe this is a book that anybody can read. It's not a mystery novel, it's a warm story, a family saga, and it's not a very complex book, but it does talk about the complexity of human mind. And there is this haunting portrait, like I mentioned before, of this young girl that makes me want to write poems. It's something unforgettable. The characters therein are also unforgettable and wonderfully developed. Also, I feel that all of us have suffered some kind of loss in our lives, and we have different ways of dealing with the loss that we meet in our lives. Some of us deny the losses we have, some of us cling to them, and some of us end up glorifying our losses. So in this way, all of us are going to relate to this story in one or the other way, and I strongly feel that it will help you unearth secrets about your own minds. So I strongly believe that you should read this one, especially during your quarantine time, and I would love to know how you found it. Signing off, Geetika Kohli Amla at The Dispatch.